I want us to start our show today by focusing on you. Yes, you taking in this video. And let us start by taking in a very deep breath. And let's do it together. I hope you feel better now. I hope you're laughing a lot. Yeah, or when is the last time you had a really good laugh? And I mean a real African laugh. Yeah, that affects your whole body so that you're shaking. And don't think we're wasting time. Yeah, it is very important. Yeah, how your state of mind is right now. And the way things are, the environment in Kenya, I wouldn't blame you if you're in a bad mood all the time. I wouldn't blame it on you if you're shouting at the kids and being mean all the time. I wouldn't. Because things are not good. That's not news, everybody knows. You can even see on social media, people on edge. On our Telegram channel, we've had a very eventful and interesting past few days, where I've seen people who have been with me for decades, yes, a very long time. People who are normally very level-headed. I've seen them lose it. Now, here's the real shocker. Those people behind this virus, those people behind this global crisis, had some major objectives. And top on the list of the objectives was your emotions. Emotions are very powerful. We students of politics know that emotions have been used to win elections. Yeah, in fact, I don't know of any election that has been won without using the very powerful weapon called the voters' emotions. And so what I'm saying is that those people who manufactured virusi vya corona in a lab somewhere in Wuhan, the entire game plan was based on emotions, your emotions. And let me not lose you. Yeah, remember we started with why it is so important for you to control your emotions at all costs and never allow any outside factors to control your emotions. The first emotion that was used was fear. And that one worked like a charm. And it was necessary so that when your rights are taken away, you don't notice. In fact, you gladly welcome people taking away your rights, your basic God-given human rights. Now, the next emotion that is being unleashed as we speak is going to surprise you. And that emotion is called anger. Now, we Africans have a saying, hasira hasara. Anybody who makes a decision that is driven by the anger they feel will always regret it. Well, almost always. Because if you feel angry at the way you've always been poor, at the way you're not able to take care of your family, you can take action that can change your life forever, which is what I did once, some years back. I took a decision to do something that I don't think I can do now. I went on a 40-day fast. 40 days and 40 nights without any food entering my mouth. And when my body started getting weak, because I was only drinking water, and at that time I was employed, I had to report to work every day, I started drinking Fanta. Yep, that's soda manufactured by the Coca-Cola company. Not very healthy, but I was taking in sugar, and sugar gave me a little energy to soldier on. And then I entered the most dangerous phase of this fast. At the end of 40 days, I wanted to come out of it. I think we all know that if your body has gone without food for 40 days and 40 nights, resuming eating without a plan can kill you. You're supposed to do it gradually, and you can imagine how difficult that was for a big nyama choma fan like me. Anyway, although anger can cause you to do very bad things that you'll regret, it can also cause you to make changes in your own life that you will never regret. So, what is the objective here of the anger that you're supposed to be feeling and that is supposed to be growing in human beings all over the world? It is supposed to make you do things that will force the authorities to take even more draconian action against you, take away even more of your rights. And you'll very easily be dealt with because a vast majority of the other people in your country are hungry. They're starving. People who are weak from hunger cannot do very much. They can hardly go out into the streets to protest. There is no energy to do that. I wanted you to get the big picture so that when we come back to our local situation in East Africa and here in Kenya and Tanzania, you will fully get a grasp of what is really happening. As we speak, there is high wire drama unfolding between two East African countries joined at the hip called Kenya and Tanzania. You need to understand that the country called Tanzania and its very wise president, John Pombe Magufuli, God bless him forever, have disrupted the plan. First of all, they are threatening to get rid of that emotion, which is very important in this game plan, called fear. Because every day, Kenyans are realizing that Tanzania, which did not have the same draconian, harsh measures Kenya had, is not any different from Kenya. Yes, there are few people who are still blinded and they can't see. But more and more every day, more and more people are opening their eyes. And that cannot be allowed to happen. At the beginning, people told us things are very bad in Tanzania. And we waited for evidence on the ground via social media videos from affected families in Tanzania, from affected people in Tanzania. They never came. And then the mighty, well-informed United States government told us that hospitals in Tanzania are overwhelmed. Now, I've lived in Tanzania for a very long time. It's a country I understand very well. I have friends and contacts right across the country, even in places you've never heard of. I once did a road trip that took me to Dodoma, Tabora, and many, many other places, which I can't remember off the top of my mind. And then finally, on to Mwanza, where I looked up in the hills and was shown a very humble house that John Pombe Magufuli once built for his family ages ago before he became president. And so, it was not too difficult for me to confirm whether indeed it was true that hospitals in Tanzania were overwhelmed. Because what I'm interested in on this channel is the truth. Sometimes propaganda leads to perception, which becomes the popular perception. And sometimes some people fear to go against popular perception. But I thank Almighty God for making me who I am. And that is why you saw statements, comments on this channel saying, Chris, I've followed you for a very long time. But hii maneno ya Rona, you've lost it. You now sound like the vice president of John Pombe Magufuli. Well, I have no apologies to make. I want to stick to the truth and nothing but the truth. Now, because these two East African countries are joined at the hip, it is very easy for Kenyans to find out, even if they've never been to Tanzania, the truth. We also have many Kenyans who travel regularly to Tanzania to buy goods. And then they come back and sell them in Kenya. There are very many, thousands. It would have been easy for these Kenyans to sound the first alarm. And tell us, actually, it's true. Things are very bad in Tanzania. Anyway, the hospitals in Tanzania are not overwhelmed. It is true people are dying in Tanzania, but they're also dying in Kenya. From various ailments. Life has not stopped. And indeed, we have entered the pneumonia season. That, coupled with the heavy rain that has been pounding most of East Africa, obviously causes diseases. And some of these diseases are fatal. So people are dying, that's true. But it is normal. You see, the problem is, before this virus came along, many of us forgot that people are dying all the time. Anyway, bottom line, the country called Tanzania is a threat to the game plan, a very huge threat. Because by making this thing called fear disappear, the plan will be in big trouble. People will start asking too many embarrassing questions. One of the first things the emotion of fear does to a human being, it stops you from thinking. Or rather, you stop thinking straight. The survival instinct, the natural survival instinct in a human, kicks in. And if anybody shows you that so-and-so is a threat to your survival, you will hate that person immediately. You will start attacking that person immediately. So fear is key. And Tanzania has really threatened that emotion in East Africa. But there's something else that Tanzania threatened, that made those behind this crisis just lose it. So much so that they felt they had to take action, drastic action, immediately. You see, in case you have not noticed, one of the major objectives of using these emotions is to finally get to a place called famine, lack of food, food shortages. Tanzania has disrupted that because the president has even urged Tanzanians to do agriculture very seriously, to plant food like never before. And that food has been transported to neighboring Kenya. So that some of us are well fed enough to tell me that I'm now sounding like the Vice President of Magufuli, forgetting, or not interested, in where that food they're eating, some of it, came from. Well, that problem has now been dealt with, and you know how. The border is shut. And it all started, by punishing drivers from Tanzania, our dear brothers. They were tested. They had to pay dearly for the tests, of course. And then some of them waited for days to get their results. Now, imagine for a minute, Tanzania were doing this to Kenya. You heard that Kenyan truck drivers were stuck at the border, waiting for days to get their test results back. And then some of them were being turned back. What would you feel as a Kenyan? Anyway, as the lines of trucks grew longer and longer into Tanzania, stuck at the border, Kenya took action and shut the border. And you know what happened next? Tensions between these two brothers. And you need to ask yourself, if you're thinking, what for? The virus is real. I've never said it's not real. It's very real. But so is pneumonia, which has killed many more people this side of the world. And so is cholera, etc., malaria, etc., etc. So I ask again, the tensions between these two brothers are for what? Well, now that I've given you the bigger picture, indeed I started this show today by giving you the bigger picture, I think you understand a little more about what is really going on here. And it is not about protecting Kenyans from the virus. It isn't. That is the truth. Don't you find it mind-boggling that the virus, which was rampant in a place called Kawangware, in the suburbs of Nairobi, suddenly vanished like magic from the place? And we're told the virus is airborne. And it suddenly landed at the border with Tanzania. It also vanished to a large extent from a place called Isili, very close to the Nairobi CBD. What? It's true that this thing is airborne. So who knows where it's going to land next? Yes, this thing is real. Nobody's denying it. It exists. It has taken lives all over the world. However, it is totally amazing how intelligent this virus is. It is also politically correct. And it is also on social media, because the virus heard on social media that Tanzanians are not taking it seriously. It heard on social media that things are very bad in Tanzania, that the hospitals are overwhelmed. And then it took a flight to the border to arrest the situation. Now let's do a little thinking for ourselves. Don't worry, if you stretch your brain a little, it won't hurt. Trust me. Let's do a little thinking. If it was true that indeed there was a problem from Tanzania, this is what would have happened. Would have started getting major problems in a place called Kitengela, Kajiado, Isinya. Why? Because there's usually a large population of people landing in those areas from Tanzania. Our rapid response team would have been very busy in that area. And then somebody would have stopped and asked themselves, where's this thing coming from? Oh, it must be from the border. That is the way it's supposed to work. Assuming that the disease is spreading naturally. But it should be clear as day to anybody who bothers to think that this virus is not spreading naturally. It is spreading very, extremely unnaturally. It is spreading in ways that cannot be explained logically and cannot be explained scientifically. And there's something else coming out very clearly from the government statistics. Those people spreading it while they're showing no symptoms are recovering, meaning that it is only harmful to people whose bodies are already weak from other issues, like the old or people suffering from other serious diseases. If they get this virus, then that becomes dangerous. That is what the statistics are showing us very, very clearly. And now we understand, the measures taken by a country called Sweden, who protected the old people. They took very draconian measures to protect the old and the frail from coming into any possible contact with the virus. Now that one makes a lot of sense, looking at the figures in Kenya. So now we have a problem with our brother, our neighbor, Tanzania. For some of us, it is much more serious than that. We have problems with close relatives, loved ones. And tomorrow, the Mzungu with this disease of his will disappear. They'll leave us. Because everything that has a beginning has an end. And so when that happens, will we be able to look at our brothers and sisters straight in the face? Or will we be forced to talk with them with our eyes shifted to the ground? unajua hii maneno, unajua ni ngumu kuelewa hii maneno lakini that is why I always say, do something that will stand the test of time. Now, there was a time not too long ago, I was a harsh critic of President John Pombe Magufuli. And there was a reason. The human rights violations in that country. And those videos are still on this channel. And so anybody who comes across this channel and says, this Chris Kumekucha guy is a con man. He tells us to do things that stand the test of time. He has done videos that don't stand the test of time. Now, if such a person came along and investigated closer and looked at those earlier videos I did, they would quickly realize that they're all factual. It is the truth. And then they would fully understand how I changed. They would see the crisis that came, that brought out the real Magufuli, and what really drives him, and what he's really trying to do. You know, you can be trying to do something, and you're very determined. And that thing is important. And of course, you're human. You'll make a few decisions here and there that will not stand the test of time. You'll make a few decisions here and there that are wrong. But ultimately, you'll be judged based on your motive. Why were you doing all those things? What were you trying to do? If you're trying to do the very brave thing, some would say impossible, of changing your country and ultimately changing Africa, then immediately somebody sees that, and this person is thinking, they would have no option but to support you, even with your weaknesses, because you're human, you're not a god. And they would support you, especially because the cause you're fighting for is much bigger than even your own country. The cause Magufuli is fighting for is bigger than him. It is much bigger than Tanzania. It is much bigger than East Africa. The cause he's fighting for is an African one. This man is the great Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, back amongst us. And I urge any right-thinking African to do everything in their power to fully support this great African called President John Pombe Magufuli. Because he's fighting for you, even if you don't realize it yet. He is the perfect candidate to be president of a United States of Africa. So, let us finish our show today where we started. I think you now understand why your emotions are very important. One way of fighting the cabal successfully is for as many of us as possible to control our emotions, to make sure that we don't go anywhere near something called fear. If the mood in your house is gloomy, take in some comedy. Watch Mr. Bean. Or watch this entertaining, talented Nigerian on YouTube. You know, my kids are always reminding me about what Mama Ojo did. I believe that Nigerian is based in South Africa. The epicenter of the virus in Africa. And the guy is a genius. The idea of basing his comedy on something which many of us can identify with. You know, the tough draconian mother against the naughty son. Is just hilarious. Or come back to Kenya and enjoy my favorite comedian by far, Professor Hamo. And make sure it's a kind of comedy that enables you to have a full African laugh. What's the difference between the African laugh and the Mzungu laugh? This is the Mzungu laugh. That's very funny. That's very funny. The Kenyan laugh with the whole body shaking, tears coming out of the eyes. What? Believe it or not, I sometimes roll on the floor when I'm laughing. Oh yes, true story. That is the African in me, and I have absolutely no apologies to make. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha, reporting from Africa, the blessed rising continent.